one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing. Is the pastors here tonight? Yes, they're not.
Yeah, you'll do, Mayor.
There's too many last time. Dear God, we give you thanks for this day, and we ask that you give us the help that we use our best judgment to take care of the business of the city before us tonight. Bless all of our citizens and all those people that are with us tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Somebody tell us that in this chair.
On sale.
You gotta jump up the chair.
Could we have the roll call, please?
Councilman Templin.
Present.
Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman DiGiulio.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavarecki.
Present.
Councilman Rourke.
Here.
Madam Pro Tem McLeod.
Here.
Treasurer Armstrong.
Present.
And Mayor Matakis.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. I ask for a motion to put the agenda for the meeting tonight before the council. Moved by Cisco, supported by Councilman Templin. Is there any discussion, corrections, changes?
Let's separate claims and accounts tonight there, Mayor.
Without objection, we will remove from the consent agenda the claims and accounts item at the request of Councilman DiGiulio. Are there any other changes to be made? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you. Motion for approval of the minutes for the June
Motion,
27th, moved by Councilman DiGiulio. Do I have a second? Support. Supported by Councilman Cisco. Are there any corrections, changes, deletions? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The organizational business, the city administrator, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just some updates on the street improvement millage work. The contractor, GV Cement, has finished has to finish a few flags of cement over on Horger Avenue. They're also working on the restoration in the various areas and should wrap up within the next few weeks over there. They're also addressing some concerns that were raised on Shenandoah and Regina as well, looking at those issues and taking care of those for us. The Belfour Avenue water main replacement project is now complete. GV Cement is now pouring the east side of Belfour between Champaign and Devonshire. And they've also started removing the old concrete between Ecorse Road and Brookshire. And they've started installing the new storm sewer over there as well. So they're making some pretty good progress on that area of the project. The street sectioning program contractor, which is Gaglio Construction, finished pouring a large section of Lawrence Avenue at Inglewood and Cabrini this morning. I think that's to the cheers of a lot of people that use that area. It was probably one of the worst sections of road in a smaller sense than in the area. They'll also be working on some large sections of Hamilton Avenue off of Outer Drive and also Cortland Avenue off of Ecorse Road. Both are in really bad shape, and then they'll be doing some various miscellaneous sectioning throughout the city, but those are going to be the three big areas that they worked on for the new fiscal year. The CDBG street improvement contractor, which is Savoni Cement, they started removing the intersection of Ford Line and LeBlanc Avenue this morning, and they're prepping that for concrete to be poured later this week. Also, the replacement of the roof at the community center will start later this week. I believe that's scheduled to start on Thursday. And they're also going to be doing the roof at the 24th District Court at the same time. I think they end up getting both contractors were awarded. The contractor was awarded for both of them. And then also, just real quick here, the street fair it's upon us. A couple more weeks, August 4th, Friday, August 4th, and Saturday, August 5th. We'll be having those festivities down on Allen Road. Just hard to believe that that is less than a month away, and we'll be in the month of August again. So time has been really flying by, unfortunately. So hopefully everybody's been able to enjoy some of the weather at least. So, that is all I have on my report this evening.
Take a motion to put the reports and document submissions before the council.
Motion.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem McLeod, supported by Councilman Rourke. Any questions? Don't see anybody moving their head, their hands, or their mouth, so I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That's carried. We're at the public comment section of the agenda, and you have 4 minutes of time, and I ask you to observe the rules of decorum, which are on the back of the agenda. Thank you.
Name is Malcolm Beaton. If you ignore history, it will repeat itself. Some 10, 12 years ago in our police department, one of our officers was discriminated against. He came before the Public Safety Commission. I was the chairman. He said, put me back to work, give me my job, and there will be no lawsuit. City said, no way. It went through federal court. The judgment was $4.5 million against Allen Park. You know how many policemen and firemen we could have hired with that money? How many streets we could have repaired? But because they knew better than the commission, they said, no way are we going to put that man back to work. The federal judge, Tarnow, said, put that man back to work, back pay, and $4.5 million. Now let's update to a year ago. In the police department, a young officer, a woman. And if you're at home listening to what I'm saying, write her name down. I'm never wrong. Her name is Officer Brown. She filed a sexual harassment charge against a couple of supervisors in the police department. With her union, she went the first step to fill out the grievance. The second step was the police chief answering that grievance, and he turned it down. The third step would have been the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission that you people don't want to know nothing about. Why, I'll never know, especially you. Now, that policewoman had no alternative. It is going through the courts, it's being litigated. How much is that going to cost us while you people sleep? And I'm going to prove the mayor here. He made a statement a couple of meetings ago about Joyce Parker. I'm never wrong. When you told these people 1 year from the date she left, you had to abide by her rules and regulations. This is from the city clerk on city paper. Hi, Mrs. Parker. I just wanted to give you a good laugh. See the attached letter from Malcolm Beaton to the firemen. He thought that was funny because she eliminated the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission and nobody notified the commission. You know what the date on this is? October 1st, 2014. 3 years ago, Joyce Parker left this city, far exceeding the 1 year you told these people that you could not put that Police and Fire Civil Service Commission back on, even though nobody is paid, there's no lawyers involved, the commission works for nothing. On that third step grievance, write this down. I don't know if it's going to do you people any good, but it would have went no further than the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. Now, when the jury comes to a conclusion, how much is it going to cost the taxpayers in this town? And remember, the only two up for re-election is Gail McLeod and Kevin Rourke. And believe me, I forget nothing. When you stand for nothing, I will be there to remind you. Because when Councilman DeGiulio said to me, Mr. Beaton, get up and explain Act 78, you were the mayor at the time, and what did you say? We don't want to listen to him. Sit down, Mr. Beaton. Is that correct? Yeah, you heard me. That's exactly what you said after Mr. DeGiulio called me up to the microphone. You don't want to know about Act 78.
Oh, sir, we got the member.
Okay, have a nice night. I will return.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Ray McGusson, Quants. I know I missed a couple meetings, but I had a wonderful time out in Maine, New England. Beautiful country. Food was gorgeous. Food was delicious. It was unbelievable. But I listened to the last meeting, and I was paying attention, and I heard Mr. Cisco bring up the property next door. My understanding now is that the property next door, the deal has fell through. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Both of those deals have fell through. Is that correct?
Yes.
How in the heck did both deals fall through? Now, the knocking down of that knocking down our old building, was that part of the deal with one of the buyers? Question.
It was.
So we went ahead and we took on knocking that building down, and now we are being held responsible for that knockdown. Is that correct?
Well, I don't think that's, we originally, before these people had put in offers to purchase, had put out an RFP, and we were going to take the building down, and we let a contract for that. The man did not do that. The purchase agreement came in, they thought that they would take it down, and then the man says, no, we don't want it, you'll have to take it down, but we'll increase our bid.
Okay. So.
But it was before the bids.
Okay, so we still took on that price.
Correct.
So how do we allow anyone to make a deal like that with this city again, and then turn around, pay for the knockdown, then they just walked away?
Hold on, I gotta correct you, hold on.
But this answer,
The problem was, when we're selling the front 2 acres, the line for the front 2 acre went basically down the building department wall, hallway line. So in order to sell the property, the building had to come down no matter what.
I understand, Mark, but I just understood from the mayor that there was a deal made that we will knock it down with also the purchase agreement of the property. That's what was just
But remember,
said.
he also said the plan was to knock it down before either offer came in.
Besides the point, the plan was to knock it down. There was an agreement with the company that we would knock it down and they would purchase the property and they would give us the cost difference in the knockdown. That's all I'm stating. So.
And they had 120 days to do their due diligence, both of them did, and both of them exercised their option to pull out of the deal.
So I guess we didn't do our due diligence either then.
No, I have to respectfully disagree with that. This is the way all these transactions are. There is a purchase agreement put into place, people put a good faith deposit, and then they take a certain amount of time to decide whether or not they're gonna go through with the deal. It's a normal part of any real estate transaction.
Okay, I know my 4 minutes is probably up in closing on, but let me ask you this. Was there any other buyers for that piece of property other than those 2 buyers that we made an agreement to go ahead and sell it to them?
I don't think so. I don't think we had any other offers. Is that your question?
Yes. Because I'm just asking, because
No.
if we turn around and says, well, these 2 people want a bid and on a piece of property, and then we lost those buyers, now we have 2 pieces of property out there that we still own?
Well, to my knowledge, no one came knocking on our doors trying to buy that property in the interim, but
I'm not gonna try to get in the conversation.
Yeah.
There's too many convoluted pieces that he's got here.
You know, there's something to bring up, you know? I mean, it seemed like we're right back to where we were with this piece of property. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Dennis Hayes, Carter Street. I like to follow social media, Facebook particularly, and I've been interested and actually entertained by the police's recent reports. They're kind of cute, the way they frame their reporting on different things that happen. Some of them are serious, some of them are less serious, but they try to put a sort of a funny spin on it, which is kind of nice. But I also follow other aspects, and recently I noted a citizen complaining about a neighbor who had about 4 tons of wood in their yard. You know, we have an ordinance that says you got to have a pile so high and so long and off the ground, all that sort of stuff. And so I was really quite interested because according to this reporter, several of her neighbors had been ticketed, but this guy somehow escaped ticketing, or if he was ticketed, it was thrown out. And evidently, he may have some connections with the city, which is not the first time we've heard that story. But I drove by there out of curiosity. I asked the woman, I sent her a message privately, and I said, "Where's your house? I'd like to see what you're talking about." And there is a ton of wood stacked up behind the guy's garage, which is in violation of the ordinance, as I understand. It can't be at the back of the property. He's got a whole passel of wood along his driveway that's about, it may only be 4 foot high, but it might be 30 feet long. I don't know. It might be off the ground. It may not be. And then evidently, he had reduced the size of the wood that he had behind his garage by throwing it over the fence to his neighbor's house. It's all stacked up there, not off the ground, not in any particular order. Again, it sounds to me like either our enforcement people, I happen to believe that the enforcement officer was assigned originally probably was trying to do the job, and somehow maybe that was stopped. I don't know, but I'd like to see, I understand this citizen is going to be writing to the council members on my encouragement, frankly, because I've been through this so many times with our inept building department and ordinance department because of their refusal to enforce ordinances for people who are friends or family or former employees or whatever they happen to be. We've seen this. I've reported it here. There's documented history of it. We all know it. Why do we want to embarrass ourselves further by perpetuating this failure to enforce our laws? I mean, my God, at long last, can't we at once resolve to say, let's start enforcing the rules for everybody, share and share alike? I don't object to getting a ticket if I violate the law. I mean, I don't even know how you argue that. But we have some people here that are so intransigent, so obstinate, so untouchable in their own minds that they don't think the laws apply to them. And I think it's time that we start either get rid of these people that are cowards or afraid or too tied into others to enforce the laws, or you guys insist that they enforce the ordinances. I think we probably have very good ordinance officers, but I think they're being hamstrung, frankly. I fully expect that this woman, I encouraged her to come here, and she advised me that she couldn't make it tonight because her business took her out of town, but I fully expect she'll be here. And I encouraged her to write you, to tip you off, to give you evidence or whatever it is, so that you can be prepared to look at it. Because her entreaty to the city has not yielded the kind of results that should have occurred, in my opinion. Because it shouldn't take months or weeks even to get the rules enforced. Thank you.
If I can add on to I almost said Councilman Hayes' comments or Mr. Hayes' comments. I did meet with that resident last Thursday evening. It is a pretty extensive amount of wood at the residence. And I know earlier in that day, Jack was sent over there. He did issue a 10-day notice to get it cleaned up. And we'll be doing a follow-up on that at that point in time.
Well, Robert Turner on Morris Avenue, I saw a picture on Facebook. It kind of looked like a privacy fence made out of firewood. That's what
I thought the same thing as well.
Oh, we had our 4th of July, and the city has ordinance on timing. You can use fireworks, and evidently the citizen just ignores that ordinance, or they don't know about it. The same thing with the firewood. So we have a tendency of people just ignoring ordinances. So how do we enforce an ordinance to make people, think about what they're doing? Saturday night before 4th of July, they were at a park where you cannot release fireworks in the park. And the timing is wrong. So I went by there and I said, are you guys going to pick up your mess? And she made a comment, he works for the city. I don't believe that's correct. But I was talking to a lady at the fitness center. She came home from the dinner. They were putting fireworks up in her neighborhood. They were sitting in her driveway. There was fireworks on top of the driveways, in the gutter, in the shrub. So how do we enforce it? Do we call a police officer when these are going on? If a police officer is riding around the neighborhood on Saturday before 4th of July, if he hears fireworks going off, is he going to go by and, hey, you can't do this? So we probably have many, many violations, and there probably was not one fine issued. I know the state has not made this thing good for us with some of the rules, but again, we just are not, the ordinances are useless unless you enforce them. Thank you.
Any other citizens? Seeing none come forward, we'll go back to the agenda. And I would ask for a motion to put the claims and accounts before the council, please.
Motion, Mayor.
Councilman DeGiulio has moved. Do I have a second? Council Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has seconded. Councilman DeGiulio, it's your motion.
I have a couple questions here, Mayor. I guess the first one is the workers' compensation, Michigan Municipal League. It's $246,641. How's that compare with what we paid last year?
Councilman, I did not pull that one. I pulled the liability insurance one.
I think I talked to Mr. Cady about it. Didn't I talk to you,
Yeah,
Mr. Cady, about that one?
He's jumping up to get up here.
Oh, good. Well, he's not jumping too quick.
I see that.
He's jumping like me. I'll give him my cane.
Trying to get old.
Good evening. Last year's workers' comp payment was slightly less than this year's. As you know, what they do is we have an experience rating based on injuries and how much they're paying out, and our rating went up. And as people are taken off of that and things get better, it'll go back down. But I want to say last year we paid about $232,000, and this year it's 240, I think.
46, yes.
246, so it's up slightly from last year.
One more question now. How about the consular? Are we covered under workman's comp?
I believe every group is covered under workers' comp.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now we can get to the one that you have there,
Correct.
Mr. Kibbe. And that one is fire and general liability. We paid $314,000 this year. How's that compare with what we paid last year?
Yeah, last year we were 293, just about 294, so we're about $20,000 difference on that. So when I went back and I looked into this a little bit further, we were up a little bit on the liability at our $5 million coverage. That was up about $5,000. Police professional was up about $7,000. General liability was up about $5,000. And
We carry $5 million liability, is that right?
Correct.
We didn't used to carry that? That amount?
You know, it's been 5 million for the years I've been here, and I don't know, MML had changed that a couple years back where they were only doing, I think, 2 million at one point, and 5 million became a request of some of the bigger cities, and I think that's when they moved to 5 million across the board for the coverage.
This covers our new building that we purchased over there on the old Oakwood property. That covers that.
Correct.
But then again, we took off the property here next door, correct?
Yeah, the property next door, though, we'd already basically put that down to a $5,000 value. It was basically nothing because it was just a
I
vacant
mean, the building itself?
Yeah,
But we still got to carry liability on the property, correct?
Yep.
In case someone walks in there and slips and falls?
yeah. And then you hit some, the vehicles, I think I'm sorry, it wasn't the vehicles, it was the property. So we've had some new equipment that we've been able to get in the last year, then that added to the increase of the property cost.
Thank you, Mr. Kibbe.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then I'll ask for a vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The rest of the consent agenda, I take a motion for the payroll report, the June 17th finance overview, budget to actual report, balance sheet, and cash flow. Motion for those.
Motion, Mayor.
Support.
Councilman DeGiulio was moved. Councilwoman Gavarecki has supported. Is there any, there isn't to be discussion on this. I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Need a motion for a resolution to recognize the Allen Park Bulldogs as a nonprofit organization with the state of Michigan in order to obtain a charitable gaming license for their annual raffle.
Make that motion.
Support. Been moved by Councilman Cisco, supported by Councilman Templin. And are there any questions? I know they sent us quite a bit of paperwork, so. We know that they're a 501c3 and there are no questions. I will ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Resolution to authorize the Parks and Rec Director to conduct an auction of obsolete equipment the week of July 24th and utilize the services of CBK and Associates to conduct the office. Could I have a motion to put that before the council?
Motion.
Councilwoman Gavarecki has moved. Councilman Rourke has supported. Do either of those proponents want to speak to the matter?
I do not.
Anybody wish to talk about this matter? I hear no remarks, so I'm going to ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Resolution to enter into a 3-year lease purchase agreement with Comerica Bank, which had the lowest rate for financing the new fire truck, which was approved for purchase at our June 20th council meeting. Can I have a motion to put that?
Motion, Mayor.
Councilman DeGiulio and Council Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has moved.
Through the chair, before the final vote's taken, I was handed this by the attorney. The actual verbiage that's needed, is it into addition to what's on?
In addition to that, yep.
Okay, so start with what's on the agenda and then finish with, and,
Yep.
okay, so this is actually, just so the council knows what they're voting on, it's a resolution to enter into a 3-year lease purchase agreement with Comerica Bank, lowest rate for financing of the new fire truck approved June 20th, 2017 council meeting, and authorize the mayor and city clerk and deliver the master lease purchase agreement with Comerica Leasing Corporation, the applicable lease, and all other associated documents contemplated hereby. And that's the resolution.
Is that agreeable to the parties who have moved and seconded?
But I do have a question.
Councilman DeGiulio.
I missed the meeting on the 20th. I wasn't available here. And I'm just curious there. I see our fire chief is there. What's happening to our old fire truck? We replacing the old one with this one, or was this just an addition, or? What is it there, Mr. LaFond? Or Chief LaFond, as Harry would call you?
Either way. We are replacing our 1988 model truck with this one, and we'll be trading that truck in.
And what are we getting for it?
$10,000.
And what was the purchase price of the new one?
$654.
So $644 difference.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks.
You're 30 years old.
I realize that. Almost old as me.
Any other questions by council? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We had the next two items in the work session tonight. Pretty spirited debate with some alternatives here. But the first resolution talks about the 6 residential taxed foreclosed properties. We want to take that as a separate resolution from including potentially the commercial properties and deal with the commercial properties as a second resolution. I think, I didn't have a sense of what the council was thinking about the commercial, so I just assumed we proceed with the residential. And even on the one residential, we had the discussion because the one parcel has a demolition order that we were supposed to put in place on Monday on that property, and they've agreed to reimburse us the demolition costs, so that would, I think, be part of that motion.
Although that would be
So-
5, maybe that'd be, I think the first one is whether or not we
okay.
purchase them, right?
All right. You're right, yeah, because that next one is really realty transitions. All right. Could I have a motion to put this, the 6 residential before the council?
Motion.
Support.
Or
Councilman Cisco has
Councilwoman
moved, and
Gavareki.
Council Gavareki has supported. Is there any comments or discussion by council?
Quick question for clarification then. So the 2 gas stations we're not discussing, or the 2 gas stations will be
I
a
would
separate-
suggest that they just be a separate item, because I don't think there was, I didn't get a sense that there was an agreement. I didn't want to lose the 6 residential properties going forward.
Okay.
For everybody to understand, the county was a month late in getting us these properties. We got them Thursday of last week. We have to notify the county by the 21st of June, and we have to pay them by the 28th of June, so there's. July, I'm sorry, excuse me, yeah. I'm trying to gain a month back. But it was a short notice, and so
So,
on this portion, I think,
What, Mayor, I'm thinking to take the gas stations also, correct?
well, I'm going to ask for a motion on them next.
So they've agreed to take them all the properties.
Well, we can change 5 depending on what the council does with the commercials. All right?
So we're just gonna talk about the residentials first,
Yeah.
right now, and then a
So it's
separate.
going to be a 4A and a 4B.
There's 11 listed on here.
I know it. I'm not taking some of them because I think they're actually vacant parcels. If you notice, most of them have those really nice names like Ravine Estates.
0 Goddard.
Yeah, they're usually sitting in either
So these 3.
Sexton Kilfoyle or the North Branch of the Ecorse Creek, literally in them. They're most of them.
Yeah, when we looked at both those, both the Goddard lots were basically underwater. Mike Mizzy probably cantered through these many years ago, but they are completely underwater from what I could see.
so,
Any other discussion? I guess
Yes.
Councilwoman Gavrek.
Waterfront properties.
just for a point of clarification, do we have to indicate in here that we will not be paying for the demolition on that one house? So that was coming out of CDBG money? to
Well, I
demo
think
that,
we
or
could address that when we deal with,
Realty
Doesn't have
check.
to be done right now?
no.
Okay, thank you.
There are other questions? I'll ask for the vote on the 6 residential properties. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The second resolution would be to purchase the 2 properties that are 10955 Allen Road and
All the way to the top.
5248 Allen Road, which are both
Gas.
closed gas stations, is that correct?
Operating gas stations.
They're not closed, are they?
Or are they still
Both are
operating?
operating gas stations.
Okay. So if I could have a motion to put this before the council for discussion?
Motion.
Councilman Gavricki has moved. Do I have a
Support.
second? Councilman Cisco has stated. Does anyone wish to discuss this?
I have a question maybe for the attorney. Part of the discussion upstairs, is this pending some type of environmental? If we were to purchase, because I know there's a time frame there, but
Yeah, well, they indicated that our contract with them, that they would assume the environmental and that they would get a BEA done within 45 days, which would make none of the parties responsible, according to their legal opinion, from their lawyers. That is not an opinion that has been given by our lawyer.
That is correct. And you know what, I have no, yeah, because this just came in this morning, I had meetings all afternoon, I wasn't able to do an investigation with respect to this. So, you know, I'm very cautious to give a legal opinion without having done any research. I have no reason to doubt what he's saying. I just haven't been able to verify that. You know, unfortunately, there's such a short window here. I don't know if the county would give us more time to look into this. My sense is they will not, but our finance director is shaking his head. It appears to be no. So.
As I stated at the meeting, the county's perspective on properties like this in the suburbs, if they send them to auction, they get to keep the difference above those, well, they keep everything. They get their tax dollars back, but they also get whatever the other selling prices are. So that's their interest in the properties. I don't know if they have the same interest as the mayor and council have as to who is coming into the into the city and taking the properties over and how they will operate them, rehab them. They're both operating, so it's rather strange that they've come up to the forfeiture situation, that they weren't requested to be taken down. I mean, it's really a mystery, but my sense of it is if the environmental is approved by the attorney, and one of the reasons for separating these out is we can say on the 21st, we don't want them if there's an environmental issue, if that's the sense of the council. And maybe we add that to our motion, that if we don't have a favorable opinion from the attorney, then on the 21st, we will not exercise our option on these two statements. That way that we don't have to, I don't have to try and call a quick meeting to see if you.
So are you saying that what you want to amend or make as a resolution, if the attorney comes up with a unfavorable
Environmental,
position on this,
then the council.
then it's done? We don't vote then? What we're doing is voting to empower our attorney to make a yes or a no on this issue? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, you may say you don't want to deal with the operating, the two gas stations at all. But I'm just saying is, he's very concerned about the environmental issue, even though our ownership of that is going to be almost momentarily, but momentarily can be enough to get you in a lot of trouble.
Who's he's, Mayor?
Oh, me.
Oh, he's, okay, you're he's. Okay,
our
I
attorney.
get confused
Oh, yeah.
when they
Our
don't
attorney.
use names.
So I would, that's all I would suggest, because all we have, today's the 11th, that's 10 days to act, and he needs some time to review it, and to try and call a special meeting in July, just to go back through this issue. I'm not certain what the council's pleasure, but it would be mine to say, if he says the environmental risks are something we shouldn't undertake, I think we ought to pay attention to that. We are now arguing with the property owner of this 104 acres over the environmental issues that occurred when this property was sold to him. So,
Well, a question for either Dave or the fire chief. Do we do annual checkups on gas stations? Do we have record if there would be any gas leaking from tanks or anything like that? Okay.
There could be a leak there right now, and we would know, State of Michigan handles that.
So it would be no updated record, or you couldn't tell when the last time that was checked? Okay.
That's all State of Michigan.
And I thought the attorney's concern was the draft or statement that the buyer gave us, whether that,
Well, here's my concern.
the interpretation of that.
Well, no, here's my concern is, assuming that property is contaminated, and those have been gas stations, all my life, so, Mayor, you've been here a few years longer than me, I mean, hey, can you remember there not being a gas station?
I remember when Mr. Schaefer's cows crossed the street there.
Schaefer's farm was right
And
there.
until 1954,
No,
it was a dairy. So I know that,
Right.
yeah.
After that, it was there when I was there,
So,
so.
Yeah.
well, it was a big battle
So-
between Mr. Schaefer and the
So-
Ford Motor Company as to that,
Dennis,
because
just talking about some BS, but literally, right?
these were
I
cows.
couldn't pass
These were
that
not-
up.
these were not the
There could have
bulls.
been a few bulls there. But yeah, I'm assuming, I mean, I gotta believe they've been there 50 years, right?
Close to
I
it.
mean, that takes us maybe almost, let's see, 1960, be 57 years ago, so.
Yeah.
So anyway, normally gas stations are hot. I call them, they are contaminated. So the question is, what liability attaches for us to, as the mayor says, we take title today and then a week later we transfer it to someone else. Does that jeopardize the city? And I'm concerned about getting in the chain of title.
Yeah.
So, now the upside is, whoever's gonna own it, there's some control there. That's about the only upside in this deal for the city.
We did pull the reports off the DEQ earlier today, and both have had new tanks put in,
As of 1987, right?
98 and 2001.
Okay.
98, 2000. Is there only one owner on each of those properties, or is there multiple people that own do we know?
They're listed on the DEQ here, and because we don't get ownership on the, from the county.
Okay.
On the DEQ site here, it's listed as as two different owners.
I mean, and then, another thing is, did they not pay taxes because of some issues? But all this is speculation, we just don't know. There hasn't been enough time to do an investigation. At least Mark checked out to see whether or not there's any open violations.
Dave helped me on that.
Or Dave, and all we know is there isn't any open violations, but as a chief, what was your point?
I would say, well, he's coming forward is that if those were done in 98 and 2001, responsive to the 1987 Underground Storage Tank Act, which required us to go to double-walled, then that site would have been checked environmentally to see if there was any leakage as they were checking and changing those tanks. Am I correct, Chief?
You're correct, but the issue is, was it properly cleaned up? How well was the tank change out monitored? Everybody's budgets are short, just like ours, including the state of Michigan, DEQ. A lot of times that stuff gets phoned in, the sites are supposed to be clean aren't. Any gas station that was built before the double wall tank law took effect, you can almost guarantee it's got some type of contamination. It's just a matter of how bad it is. Any questions?
You heard the chief's statement.
I just don't want to see you guys get in trouble with this one because I've never seen a clean gas station.
That he thinks we may have some Arabian oil sands there.
Just saying. Look at the mess we just dealt with at the BP at Southfield and Roosevelt. That was a new station with new tanks, but the contamination from the old station and the old tanks started coming right back up through the ground, and it was a cleaned up site. And it got so bad that we were getting explosive levels of gasoline fumes inside the building, and their current tanks are not leaking. So that was residual from the cleaned up site.
Yeah.
So
If you want my
based on
opinion,
that,
I wouldn't buy it if it was me, but that's just.
well, that's what I mean, from the information you're stating, from what the attorney's saying right now, I'm not comfortable with us, myself, making a purchase on these right now. I mean, we have till the 21st. If some other information came available, what loss is it to us if we don't purchase? Someone else will purchase, but then if they become eyesores, is the other problem, correct?
Right. Do we wish to let Realty Transition speak to this issue? What's the sense of the council? Do you have any objections?
Sure.
I'll ask Mr. Stockham to come forward. Since they were the ones that are willing to environmentally indemnify us and also
Thanks, Council.
buy these two.
Just to speak briefly to when you're talking about the legal issues, and we agree that this came at such a late date that it was nearly impossible to get a credible legal opinion on this. However, we did talk to our environmental counsel and we did talk to the environmental expert that we use, and the material that we were provided said simply that in these situations, gas stations are sold every day. There's always some chance of contamination. There's always some chance of liability, and those statements are true. However, that's why the state has set up the DEQ. The DEQ keeps a leaking underground storage tank list. It's reported when it's tested, and that list for both of these properties shows that that's not on the list, which is a good thing, which means to the extent that that's been reported to the state and recorded and tested, there is no issue there. Now, that doesn't mean that that couldn't happen. It just simply means at this point, there is no issue. Now, what we've been told also by our counsel and by our environmental expert is that in the event that you do take title, that if you, within 45 days, you get a phase 1 and a BEA baseline report, you will only be liable for what you cause after the baseline report. So you're not going to be, and we would not be liable, which is why we're entertaining this. You've got a property where you've got somebody that hasn't paid taxes for 3 years. If you've seen the properties, they're in disrepair. We've done this similar thing before where we have repaired properties, got in good owners, or operated as necessary on a commercial property. So it is a benefit for the city that you not have somebody that's defaulting in taxes year after year. It's also to the city's benefit that you can supervise and help us with the construction and the suggestions of what type of quality property you want there. Now, to the extent that this council would have to make a decision today, this council does not need to make a decision today on whether you're going to accept liability for this. And I agree with the mayor in terms of that if your council and this city is not comfortable with the answer on whether or not there is exposure there, then you shouldn't do that. What we're saying, though, is that in terms of us taking title to these properties, that we've been advised that there is limited, if any, risk in terms of that, provided that you take those steps that we are able to do. We are also a company that has over 200 properties, and our investors are in the millions of dollars. We will stand behind our indemnity, and I don't believe that there's any real suggestion that we would not be able to indemnify this city should there be a problem. So we are willing to take that risk to do that for these properties and to basically rehab these properties and get the tax paid just the way it's supposed to be. Not every 3 years, not on some negotiated deal, not on a property that's in disrepair. If legal counsel for Allen Park, whether that be Joe or what we would suggest is get someone that actually is an environmental lawyer, which is what we do in these situations, and have that opinion verified that there is not the risk for the city. Because if the city's actually taking real risk, we don't want the city involved either. You know, Shadi Awad is one of the owners here. He lives in the city. He certainly is not here to make the city liable for some gas station. On the other end of it, the real risk here is not on the city. The real risk is getting this property restructured, getting it property back on the tax roll, getting it operating, getting it rehabbed the way it's supposed to be. We're willing to do that if the city is willing to take a look at this, set a deadline for the 21st when you have to notify the county. If at that point this city is in any way unsatisfied with their legal situation and their exposure, they should say no. And if you have the authority to do that here today, I would suggest you do that. Just say if legal counsel says that this is not a property that does not expose the city to liability to any great extent, then this city should pass. However, if legal counsel is satisfied with our counsel and whatever counsel the city has that says that this is not a significant risk and it merits going forward, then I would suggest that if you want us involved and you want us to do this, we certainly are capable of doing everything we say. So if that's the approach, we'd ask the council to approve it subject to satisfaction of council, and if council's not, then pass.
Thank you.
Another question. How long do we hold title to the property? You know, once it goes to the county, I mean, you sell it the next day, or do we have to hold it for a period of time?
No, we could, yeah, the problem is the county is not real efficient.
What do you say?
Louder? No. Or was that loud? I'm sorry. I totally missed that. Yeah, so, once we acquire a title, we can do a deed. You know, it's a matter of me drafting a deed and the mayor and I and Mike signing that deed. So, you know, sometimes that can be done within 24 hours. So we could make that happen quickly. The real question is just by holding title, what kind of liability attaches? Right. That's either the $1,000 or hundreds of $1,000 question. So.
Bless you.
Bless you.
I think one of the years, the county, we can't issue a deed if we don't have title, because we're saying, we give quit claims.
We do something, yeah, we do. Or we do a municipal covenant deed. Do we do quit claims or municipal covenant? Yeah, quit claims.
I guess you can. A quit claim, we give you whatever title we got, but if we don't have a deed to us by the time we give them that quit claim, they don't get any title, and it's not perfected, and that's a problem. It may be a problem for their lenders. So normally, we would have to have deeds from the county before we issued our deeds to them, so that the chain of title isn't a problem. And I think the 1 year, it took us a month before we got the deeds from the county. And it may sound like they're inefficient, but
Yeah, you're right, thousands.
they may be issuing thousands of deeds in a month's time. I mean, I don't know how many lawyers they've got or scriveners they've got to do these things, but I can imagine 1,000 deeds would tax about any law office we have in this city to get them done within 30 days, so. Because you gotta check the titles, the legal descriptions, and, so.
I got a question. We just hired a new city planner, right? Does he have a legal staff that handles this kind of stuff?
I doubt it. I mean, no, I don't think he,
I mean, my question was, do we find an environmental lawyer, like he was saying, or not, I mean, somebody to handle
well,
it?
you know.
How long does that take?
I think I can get us an answer here, so.
But I'm just saying.
I mean, if you wanna
Well, no, if you
pay,
can- you can do
don't
it,
get
you
me
can do
wrong,
it.
I would love a second opinion too. In fact, I would double check any opinion I receive from anyone, because I have to be, not only I have to be satisfied, and everyone here needs to be very comfortable with this.
And we would expect, we would reimburse you. Like I say, part of our agreement is that we will reimburse you for legal fees for these contracts, and that would be included. And two, just a short answer to your question on the deed. The county works very closely with us because we have hundreds of deeds at times. So they let us know, they might not send us the deed, but when they record the deeds, they will tell us that they recorded the deed, which means we can have the title company. Usually it could be a matter of 24 hours to 48 hours, we could have a quick claim.
I mean, is that realistic to get your baseline done in 45 days?
Oh, yes. Yes,
You've done that
normal.
before?
Yeah, and I've got an environmental company that works with us, and we just closed, actually, we're closing on Monday on an oil change, and we negotiated the purchase agreement 40 days ago. They already have it done. So it's not uncommon. It's a fairly standard approach. If there is an issue, you don't pass the baseline and you don't do it.
Well, yeah. You know, actually, it's not whether you necessarily,
No, I'm
not to
simply
quibble
saying-
over terms, you don't really pass on a baseline,
Well,
but.
no, when you finish the baseline, your
That-
liability ends at the baseline report. That is everything that happened before the baseline, you are not liable for as an owner.
And we don't want to be liable before, after, middle.
Right, but again,
anything.
like I say, you can only be liable for what's there. You know, you can't, you would not, it would be our property after that. So you couldn't be held liable as not being the owner anymore after that baseline report is issued, but you would not own it anymore. You know, and again, that would be subject to you or your environmental group verifying that, but I doubt, like I say, to the extent that you can verify that, that's what you'd want to do.
Well, the issue is, your baseline environmental is to you.
I've asked them, and they said that we could actually have the baseline for both of us as owners.
Well, you've heard from potential purchaser from us, you've heard the concerns of our city attorney, and you've heard about the shortness of time. Would the council want to addend something to this operating agreement, or do they simply want to table this until we get an opinion from, and then we'll have to have a special meeting?
I'd like to vote on that. Don't want to table this.
My question would be, to the attorney, do you have time in 10 days to give us an answer?
I will make, you know, I will make time to make this
Then
happen.
why don't we make an
you know.
addendum to the,
Through the chair, I have what I think I've heard everybody say, and let me read this aloud. It'd be similar to the original, the one on the tax foreclosed resolution to purchase two commercial tax foreclosed properties from Wayne County at a cost of, and I'll get that, and it would be, and it almost, let me say this, pending final approval by the city attorney with the full understanding the city attorney has the right to refuse purchase of the two properties. I mean, it's basically giving you like 2 outs. I mean, I don't like the way I repeated it, but we want it pending final by you, from what it sounds like, and then also giving you the right just to double cover and say, hey, we don't want it at July 21st.
That's an amendment to the original motion, right?
Right, yeah.
Is that agreeable to you, Councilwoman Gabrick?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
It's, my agreement would be is to go with the original, whether to purchase yes or no, and a vote. And then if, where it falls.
Okay.
I have a question for Mike. The way you're wording it, it gives us the opportunity to do a yes or no vote to purchase. But it gives us an out if the attorney finds that there's too much liability.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, we traditionally do it by final approval by the city attorney. And in the past, there's been a lot of times where the attorney said, no, we can't agree to this. So then next meeting, we'd come with a whole new thing. But I also want it known for the record, because we're gonna probably go into the next resolution, that with the full understanding that the city attorney does have the right to refuse the purchase of the two properties. So you're saying pending approval from the city, final approval from the city attorney, but then you're actually spelling out that we don't have to pick them up if we don't want to. Does that make sense to
So we
you?
could vote yes or.
I could refurbish it, maybe you're.
No, that's,
I just got a text from our finance director I was looking at. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's.
On this issue, so, I mean, is it council's thought you would be in favor of this in the event if there was minimal liability? Is that where we're going here?
Well, if the proponent is not willing to amend on her own and supported by the second, then the issue would be, does anybody else want to amend her motion? And you could have a second, and we'd have to vote on the amendment to the motion first. And if we vote to amend it, then her motion gets amended. So we can, I mean,
I guess I'm fine with the way he's worded it, the second clarification. It's still allowing us to vote yes or no. So, if that's what I'm understanding.
yes, that's right.
Correct?
And a yes would mean, yes, you would go through it, and a no would mean, no, you don't want to do it at all.
We're
So
not going to do it
would not
regardless. We
change.
wouldn't even ask the city
Okay.
attorney to pursue that.
I'm fine.
You're fine with the amendment, Councilman Cisco?
What's the amendment? Run it by me
Okay, again, it's
Because
to
we've
purchase
talked
the
about
pool.
8 million things here right at the moment, so let's have a clarification of what we're talking about.
The original motion, again, would just mimic number 4, but say 2 commercial properties, okay, with a price. Then the amendment would be pending final approval by the city attorney with the full understanding that the city attorney has the right to refuse purchase of the 2 properties.
So we're going to vote on the amendment first?
No, it's,
It's all
Or is
I'm
that all
asking
part
if
of
it's
it?
all, yeah, the
It's-
proponent is saying she's good with the.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so that amendment, it will be part of this motion,
Yep.
and that's where we stand. Is there any further discussion that the council wishes to have? None, then I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
No.
There, a 6-1 vote, and Councilwoman Gawarecki has voted no. All
Okay.
right, we are at item 5, a resolution to continue the existing relationship with Realty Transitions to rehabilitate and sell 6 residential tax foreclosed property to the owner occupants for 2017. And then I guess we add the 2 operating stations if approved by the city attorney.
Could we separate the two on this one also? That way this will be clean and.
So we have
Okay?
R5A, R5B.
So we're 5A, 5B?
Yeah.
Motion on 5A, Mayor, to purchase. to sell.
Councilman DiGiulio has moved on the 6 residential. Do I have a second?
Second.
Go ahead, Gail.
Mayor Pro Tem McLeod, is there any further discussion on the residential properties?
Yes,
Yes.
the demo.
Yes.
The demo price, was that where we were gonna add it?
Yeah.
Or
and-
no?
No, you're right on target. And pay the cost of demolition for the house located at, I believe it's 5846 Belfour.
Right.
Thank you.
Purchaser will pay that, reimburse us.
Yes.
1 second. Purchaser. Pay the cost. And that was the, for the record, that was the Belfour.
5846 Balfour, I believe.
Those are two Balfour properties.
Okay. And that'll be added to the resolution.
Down the street from the village.
Okay. And I think we heard from Realty Transitions that that's an acceptable addendum to them, so. Any other discussion by council? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is carried. I'll call it 5B. Resolution to continue the existing relationship with Realty Transition to rehabilitate and sell 2 commercial properties. Should the city attorney give approval
How about,
under 4B, I guess?
should the city purchase them? I mean, it's up to you.
No, we're not gonna purchase if he says environmentally, there's a risk.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It'd be,
No, 4B was to purchase or not to purchase. 5B is whether we're gonna sell it to them or not.
no, I'm just saying to cut it all out, just basically say pending the city purchasing or acquiring the properties from the county. So basically, it's just saying pending the fact that we even get them.
Yeah, but we also need the indemnification of the purchasers as part of that too, so.
Well, and
It
you
starts
know-
to get a complicated motion.
Sure, but, and maybe we could do something here, Mayor, subject to negotiate, kind of approved by city attorney, mayor, and city administrator. And then we could deal with that. Subject to a negotiated contract, approved by myself, you and Mark.
Why is your agenda different than mine, Mr. Attorney?
Oh, wow. Well, mine's updated.
Yeah, the ones in the audience are too. Those aren't the minutes. This is just the agenda, so sometimes I add.
Well, his agenda's a little.
The city attorney's agenda is different than the city administrators and mine. And the language is much better in,
Oh, must be different than mine.
Just so no one I was asked to add that language later on, so I did before the meeting, so. I don't want you to think I'm trying to trick you, Mayor.
well, just, so we have it in front of us, because I'm asking for,
Most of them do have it. Anyone who I handed a packet to, who got a packet from me, it's on your agenda.
Yeah, I got it.
It's just the people that printed your own agenda, I never got to send a revised one, because it was,
so you notice, subject to a negotiated contract approved by the city attorney. So that's the language that we would add to this motion. Am I correct, Mr. Clerk?
Okay. So 5, so after
well, that wasn't me, I swear. No.
Oh, my God. It's not raining out either.
no.
I guess, but then I would just add at the end of it that just to protect ourselves, pending that the city does acquire the property. So they don't come back and get mad at us for not, you said you were gonna give us these. But it's up to you,
Subject to negotiated contract approved by the city attorney and the city having acquired the property.
The city acquired.
So if we don't tender to the county by the 21st, then we're not taking the property, right?
Yeah, I just don't wanna see us putting the cart before the horse, but again, I'm not an attorney, I always err on the side of caution, most of the time, I should say always, no, but
You're
most.
cautious in what you're saying.
Amen, exactly.
And the city takes the property from the county, is that what we want to say, Joe?
I gotta hear the whole.
Okay.
Okay, one more time, okay,
think
now
that's
it's very similar to 5. Resolution to continue the existing relationship with Realty Transition to rehabilitate and sell, and this is where it changes, 2 commercial tax foreclosed properties, and I will list the address in the actual resolution, to, I guess we'd have to take, or would we want to keep owner occupants in there?
Not necessarily.
Okay, we'll take that out.
I don't, you guys, you don't want to limit it to that, do you? What?
Let's delete that.
Okay, so foreclosed properties, take out the owner occupant. For 2017, pending payment of attorney fees and subject to a negotiated contract approved by the city attorney, pending the city acquires the property from Wayne County. So it's basically saying all this, and it says pending if we even get the properties.
Pending acquisition.
Yeah, acquiring, yeah.
Okay, so you've got indemnification, you've got all the bells and whistles, I think, Mike. So you've heard what the motion would be. Do I have anybody on the council that wants to make that motion at this point?
This is the 5B one?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Cisco is moved. Do I have a second?
I'll support Mr. Cisco.
Councilman DiGiulio. Discussion by council, please. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Anyone want to speak for the motion?
You just want to talk, I'll speak. Not for or against, but just speak if you want.
Well, I will speak for the motion. I think better for us to have people that we've been working with and have done a good job rehabilitating properties. And even the one commercial property, which I think was the first year, I've been told that they now have probably either a good tenant or a buyer, or they've got a lease option, whatever they have, I don't know. But they've stayed after it. They've cleaned the parcel up. It looks good on Southfield Road. And I would expect nothing less with them doing with this property, but it's taken them some time. It took them some time to deal with the owner, who they gave quite some time to stay there, and he finally, I think, retired. Which he was probably thinking about all along when he didn't pay the taxes. But anyway, it just seems to me that letting the county, sell the property, we went into this whole venture because the county had sold some parcels in Allen Park and never could explain the pricing for them, and caused great havoc on that street. Those cold properties, I think everybody knows. The one property that was sold, I think, had a murder within 3 months at the parcel, and the police had numerous drug busts on those parcels, and they were really a challenge. And I won't say that commercial property will not deal drugs, because we had to close one site, which was the old Dairy Queen on Allen Road, right next to Wheat and Rye.
Tasty Freeze.
Was it a Tasty Freeze, whatever it was. It was Louis Klein's originally. But in any event, and we had a meth lab that was taken out of a commercial property on Southfield. And we also closed a marijuana, I don't know what you call it, at a property on Allen Road north of Southfield. So it isn't as if commercial properties have not given us problems over the 6 years that I've been in office. So I would prefer to deal with people that I know and I respect the work that they do, than the county wants to take its cash, realize the most money. They don't worry about the individual communities, and that's not their job in this case, you know, so.
So, just real quick, I don't know if it's for or against, but I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that RT Transit, or Realty Transition has taken over a commercial property previously from us that we purchased from the county.
Right.
Was that a gas station?
No, it wasn't. It was.
Okay.
But it
So
was,
I just think we're entering some uncharted waters. I'm not saying that they're not going to do a good job in commercial property. I'm just saying that I think we're sticking our neck out on the line, even though we are going to let our attorney work on it. I just still think that it's just, I'm not giving them that they haven't done commercial property properly. It's just going to be their first gas station property within our community. 2 gas stations.
well, and that's a valid position. I don't want to take the risk, but the two, I just look at it and say, the 2 buildings are in our community, and I can't make them go away.
Understood.
You know, and I'd rather have somebody that I know taking care of them than somebody that comes in, runs them for 3 or 4 years, doesn't do anything to try and clean them up, and it just exacerbates the problem that they may have there. Although if they have the problem, we aren't going to take it anyway, so,
Got it.
you know.
Thank you.
Question. Has Realty Transitions done gas stations elsewhere?
We've done an oil change facility in Taylor, it's easy to quickly, and it's just the same process. It's got, oil tanks,
Right.
and doesn't have gas.
But not gas.
Close ties with Jim Safadine, has 150 gas stations in Metro and our environmental team, and is one of the largest in Michigan with the gas station, and it's close to
The issue really isn't contaminated, because I think it is contaminated. The issue is what liability do
Yeah.
we have?
City attorney just said to me, he says, it isn't an issue of contamination. He's reasonably certain it's contaminated. The issue is, will we have any liability, and can we protect it? And that's what he's looking to protect us from, and that's what his opinion would say, that the deal could go forward or not go forward.
But based on the previous resolution, 4B,
Yeah.
we virtually have eliminated that risk. If he finds that we are not going to be held liable, and there is no risk in doing this, we go forward. If our attorney finds that there is risk, we withdraw and do not purchase the properties.
Correct.
Correct? So we have somewhat protected ourselves.
So let's call the question. How's that?
I was going to say that, but it's the pleasure of the mayor.
Refresh me again.
If there are no other,
Work like he used to.
no other person that wishes to speak, but I think everybody has spoken, so I will call the question. All in favor of the motion, signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
No.
1 vote no, so it's 6-1. approval. Councilwoman Gavarecki has voted no on this one, which brings us to other business. Any council people wish to speak here before we adjourn? Councilman Rourke.
I'll just say thank you for the work session earlier today. Even though we had a lot of discussion here, it cleared up some of the stuff that we were talking about tonight. But I think hopefully it'll work in the future as well. And thank you, everybody, for still coming and hanging out.
Just thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight.
Let's go home.
Mayor Pro Tem.
It's unfortunate that Mr. Beaton has left the premises. He keeps ascribing responsibilities to me that are not mine, and also making some erroneous statements. But I happened to see something in this Sunday's paper that caught my attention. I'm still one of these people that gets newspapers. It was a very interesting article because people continually bring up our police department and our liabilities and our lawsuits. And I guess it just depends on what story you want to communicate to the public. But you can find this online, and I encourage everyone to take a good look, because it's very easy to stand here and say, oh, this wouldn't happen and that wouldn't happen if only you do this. But in truth, if you read this in depth, sometimes those who would want you to believe that they are the great defenders and would keep you safe are the ones who actually get you in trouble. And one of the reasons you sometimes have problems is because of the great defenders. But they don't want you to hear that side of the story. So I highly recommend that you do a little reading and research. Thank you and have a good evening.
What paper was that, Gail?
Sunday Free Press.
Sunday Free Press? Thank you.
Any other comments by council?
I'm with Harry, let's go home.
Well, I'd like to speak. I did read the article, and make no bones about it that police officers are human beings. They make mistakes just like everybody else. But by and large, they're doing a very good job throughout this nation protecting their communities. And one of the things that you have to see is this year, in the first 3 months of this year, if my numbers were right, we've had more police officers killed than we had all of last year. And part of it, I think, is that we want to ascribe that all of these police officers, for some reason, go rogue. Mistakes are made. And I think one of the things we should realize, when I looked at those 5 deaths of citizens at Baltimore, near St. Louis, I can't think of the community that was just south of St. Louis, and then there was Cleveland and I think down in Florida. The interesting thing is they were not done by rookie policemen making rookie mistakes. These were experienced officers. But one of the things in all of the communities and in the terrible times that this recession has brought, and we've had that here in Allen Park, is you have to continually train. You have to continually train people, and you have to continually remind people of what their obligations are and where the lines, bright lines are that they can't cross. But they've got to know them, they've got to be trained, and they've got to remember that. You know, there's something like in the whole United States, the number of times police officers discharge their weapons is maybe 2% of the police force in any given year. This is not something that, you know, we're running around this country, police officers just shooting wildly and madly. And let's keep track of some of these numbers. I'm not saying I don't excuse bad behavior, but I do think that we have an obligation to minimize bad behavior by good training and seeing just how the officers respond to continuous training. And it's not just there, it's every department. Do we train people so that they act safely in DPS when they're going down to do a sewer repair or something like that, you know? I can think of years ago when they were building the line out to Lake Huron. Somebody was just careless, and that area collapsed, and several people were crushed. And so there's risk, and you've got to train people, you got to remind them. We oftentimes are all in a hurry to get things done, and sometimes maybe forget to be as careful as is necessary, so.
Mayor, wow, I know I've spoken, but I would like to clarify something.
You've spoken.
I think I was misconstrued. I don't want to be misunderstood as to what I was talking to. If I could just clarify,
All right.
please. My comments were not directed at our police force. The article deals with the road cops. My comments were directed at those who think that by being on a commission and promising to protect the road cops, that they are doing good by the citizens. But they aren't. They're harming all of our police force. I did not mean my comments to be against our police force. That was not the intent. And I'm afraid that's how they were construed as I sat here listening to the mayor. That was not my point. My point was the article addresses why these individuals still are on police forces. And my point was that you can talk about commissions, but the commissions have to do their job and not protect those who should not be protected, because it reflects poorly on the rest of the force and the majority of those officers who are doing their job. So I don't want to leave anybody with the impression that I meant otherwise. And I apologize if I did. I'm sorry.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Support.
Councilman O'Rourke has moved. Councilman Gawarecki has supported. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 7:36.